The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, August 20th, and today is oh, you guys are gonna love this. It's National Bacon Lovers Day.
Okay.
Bacon. Love me some bacon. I used to not like bacon though as a kid, unless it was like soggy and maple syrup.
Ew.
It was so good. It was so good. It's also National Accessible Air Travel Day. I don't understand what they mean by this.
Making sure handicapped people can get on the plane, Jason.
Interesting. Well, that's what pre-boarding is for, Jenny Beth. I do that all the time. That's the only way. That's the only way I get on. That's the only way I get on the plane. The way I always get that. You know what I'm saying? Choice. Get that
seat you've already purchased. Go ahead.
Get that good overhead compartment space. That prime real estate up there.
Okay.
Yeah, but don't fix the extra wide butts that don't fit in those seats.
You know, Dale, that was my first thought when they mentioned this. I was like, does this like no national like fat people taking up 2 seats day? That was exactly my thought. That was actually my thought, but I didn't think it was PC. So, but whatever. It's also National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day.
Ooh,
Yes.
I like a good pecan pie.
Yeah, that was my mom's favorite pie was pecan pie.
Chocolate pecan pie?
No, just regular. But you know, it's national. Even though it's National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day, it's still still pecan pie at the end of the day.
Yeah, even though it's pecan pie.
Holidays.
Whatever, Jenny.
Pecan pie, pecan pie.
Yeah, tomato. You know what I mean? And of course, it is National Radio Day as well today, you guys.
Okay.
Yes. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are starting off today with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track after they've been victims of the track. That's right, it is America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Happy hump day, everybody. And I have a traptastic story coming out of Minnesota because a new report from the Min Post raises concerns about whether legal cannabis shops can truly compete with the state's long-standing black market. As of August 20th, 2025, Minnesota raised its cannabis tax from 10% to 15%, making it one of the highest rates in the U.S., second only to states like Arizona, Oregon, California, and Washington. Lawmakers and industry insiders are warning that steep taxes could drive consumers back into the underground markets. Senator Ann Rest, chair of the Senate Tax Committee, says we saw in California that high taxes on legitimate cannabis lead straight to the black market, and I'm very concerned that the same could happen here. You don't say. On top of that, with Minnesota sales tax 6.875% and local taxes Minneapolis shoppers are facing a total effective tax rates above 24%. Dispensary owner Mark Eade reports customers choosing products, hearing the final price with taxes included, and walking out the door. Legal dispensaries face additional costs too: security, lab testing, regulated storefronts that illicit sellers don't. Experts say high barriers and lack of supply could make the unregulated market even more appealing. And there's precedent. In California, regulators' January report showed just 38% of marijuana consumed came from licensed sources, with the rest presumably from the black market. Public health researchers note that demand for legal cannabis is somewhat elastic. When prices rise, consumers may grow their own, cut back, or return to illicit sellers. While that underground market carries unsafe criminal activity, the financial burden may outweigh those concerns for many Minnesotans. So as schools reopen this fall, the question looms: will Minnesotans continue supporting higher taxes for public services or revert to choices that may undermine both public health and the legal economy? So, you guys, why would you do this? Yes, people are going to buy from the trap, because why would you not when you're getting stuck with 24% tax on top of your already expensive purchase? It is what it is. There are some customers who will forever stay in dispensaries because they are probably newer, older people who don't have a connection to the black market. But yeah, I mean, the trap is not going away, especially when these taxes are so egregious. But throwing it back to you guys.
You know, I threw this in the chat too, Jenny, but I just love the fact that how these governments assume that they have 100% of the market share as soon as they come out and saying, oh, I hope that the high taxes don't push people back to the black market. Like, these people never left the black market in the first place to go to your stores because of your taxes. You guys are so batshit crazy.
Yeah, so one thing that we've been doing behind the scenes as far as like the Texas legend, we all know we're way behind because we're still arguing about prohibition. But when we are finally having conversations about tax rates, we're definitely sure to point out that this is the quickest way to kill your industry and set up a really vivacious illicit market. So at 24%, like, you have to consider that this is just like any other consumer good. You need to keep I kept recommending 3 to 5 because I know that then you're going to have municipality taxes and then other excise taxes, et cetera, but never exceeding 12.5, because when you look at other consumer products, once you go past like a certain threshold, 10 to 12.5, people will not buy that product. They'll just get it where they can get it without taxes. Let's be smart. Let's be smart about money. Let's be smart about these industries. And then as far as Minnesota and public schools go, I went to high school in Minnesota. I grew up split between Texas and Minnesota. And they have outstanding schools. And I'm so glad that this is going to go fund more schools or resources. But I don't think that Minnesota is hurting for resources. And the way that we try to slice it when we're talking with legislators on any level is that your 5% of multiple billions of a thriving industry is a lot more than 20% of jack shit. So reframe. But people get in, once the money starts flowing, people get greedy, and it influences how they think, and it influences the logic. And I'm sure, Dale, you've seen this in the court of law. When money starts flowing, people get crazy and logic goes out the window.
There's still an assumption that this is just dripping with money, this industry, because when we were in the black market, people made a lot of money. They also lost their ass and got robbed and shit like that. But it wasn't hard to make money. So politicians just got their head up their ass. They don't understand that once you move it to a legal market, and you just can't suck every nickel out of it and pay for everything in the world you might imagine needs some financial help off the backs of this industry, because it's failing every place you do that. And it ain't even hard to see, but they continue to do this. And it's like they don't want it to work. Politicians are not very smart. I mean, they give me gastric upset because they're so fucking stupid. And all they're after is their own individual interests and the interests of their parties, rather than let's sit down and talk to the people who find out what can you do for them. They don't care. This is just money. We're going to take all the money we can. The industry dies. So what? Well, now you've got the enforcement costs going against criminal underground. which is going to move it around anyway. And no one wants to talk about those costs. And then you don't make a nickel off taxes. It's just insane, but it's the insanity we're dealing with. Almost every state in the nation that's got legal cannabis is doing the same stupid shit.
Wow.
You know, OG 420 grandma said it was because they've never run a trap operation or they don't understand the trap network. And that is so freaking true. We need to start bringing people who are actually a part of this industry and who have that kind of expert level knowledge, because they've watched. You can watch black market activity if you pay attention over enough years. Like, you can see how the things influence each other. Bring these experts into this field and get them to build out this industry smartly, because the other thing about going back to the trap is that it will undercut any medical market that they hope to build. Like, the three things are intertwined. You need to create sensible regulations that allow everyone to participate and don't overburden consumers, so that way you eliminate this issue off the default, like off the jump. We don't have to have these problems. This is a simple.
These people. Well, first of all, you have to also understand that Minnesota is a Democratic-controlled state, and Democrats love to overtax and overregulate on everything, and that's exactly what they're doing there. And that's just kind of like their MO. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised by this. I'm surprised that how they want to frame it is like, oh, can we compete? Like, hell no, you can't compete, because why is someone going to want to pay 40% more for something when they could get the same product for 40% less? That makes absolute, and then plus have more hassles having to go and show their ID, this and that, when they could just get it delivered to their door and not even have to worry about it. All I have to do is answer their door and get a package, and that's it, done.
Well, and let's take the safety concerns out of it too, because let's be real, a whole lot of the product that's sold on the black market is the same exact shit that's being sold in dispensaries. The same exact shit. It's coming out of the licensed market. And why is that? Because the licensed market is so heavily taxed that they can't pay their bills without trapping. So, I mean, listen, the trap's not going to go away. There's always going to be people who aren't going to shop in dispensaries, and that's just going to be that. But you're not doing the dispensaries any kind of service by making the people who do want to shop there walk out because of the taxation rates.
Yep, exactly. Making it unaccessible.
I was just in Minneapolis.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was saying I was just in Minneapolis about a week and a half ago, and one of my friends from LA got a license out there. And, on a positive note, there's a lot of really enthusiastic people looking forward to the market there. A lot of people from Michigan and Illinois that are hanging their heads low, that are going to Minneapolis, going to Minnesota, feeling like it's like a new hope. Even the hotel I checked into, the receptionist was like, "Oh, you're here for the weed expo?" I drive 4 hours to Michigan and back every weekend to go get some good weed because all we have is these hemp stores, and I don't trust it. And it was funny, that hotel receptionist telling me that. But they're limiting cultivation to 5,000 square feet per license. So no one's going to be able to produce any significant volume to compete with anybody, which is still going to keep prices high. There's all these other restrictions. There's obviously all the same big money players coming in that have wrecked the adjacent markets in Michigan and Illinois, for example. And that's the thing. Consumers have choice, whether that choice is going to the hemp market, whether that choice is going to the trap. That choice is always going to outcompete. And it's like the states just turn this blind eye to that. And they're like, well, we just want taxes. And they don't realize that the whole point of legalization is to give consumers a better option than the black market. And if you're not doing that and you're not making it cost competitive, consumers are going to keep going back to that. And then what happens? The states don't hit their tax revenue thresholds that they were expecting, so they raise taxes even more. And then they complain why they're still an illicit market, and why is it thriving? So they get caught in this vicious cycle, just this loop over and over again of just taxation. And then what happens? The producers that are licensed, trying to do everything right, they have to cut costs to compete, and they start putting shittier and shittier product out. So
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I was going to piggyback with off of Jenny's point, was that the trap will exist, and often because they're not operating at this massive scale that is truly unsustainable, especially when you look at all of the different regulations across states. They're not operating at that level, so their product is often better. Like the trap flour at least is often better as long as you know where you're getting it from. But we can't put consumers at risk with you shouldn't have to be an expert to have access to good flour.
Yeah, and we could get into 15 different arguments about, what good flour is, and even on the legal license market, all the testing they go through and irradiation just to pass that testing. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's good flour. It might pass testing on paper, but it's really just people trying to save their ass and save their profit.
Mm-hmm. So right about that. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Forgot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're back. All right, Jenny Beth.
Next, High at 9 head honcho. We're back. Jason Beck.
She is so funny today. She's got lots of jokes, apparently. Well, let me tell you something what's not a joke, because I got a serious question for you guys. Do you guys want guns, or do you want weed?
Both.
Because the Trump administration says you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Jenny Beth, not even on National Chocolate Pecan Day. The Trump administration's aggressive defense of gun rights has at least one exception. The government's lawyers want the Supreme Court to make clear that regular pot smokers and other drug users shouldn't be allowed to own firearms, you guys. An appeals court has said a federal law making it a crime for a drug users to have a gun can't be used against someone based solely on their past drug use. But limiting the law to blocking the use of guns while a person is high effectively guts the statute that reduces gun violence. The Justice Department told the Supreme Court they're asking the justices to overturn the appeals court decision. I don't think they'll be successful in that, but nonetheless. Trump's Justice Department has sided with gun owners in other cases, and the department's defense of the law is particularly notable as the Trump administration has sided with gun rights advocates in other cases, including one in which they declined to appeal a lower court's ruling against a federal law setting 21 as the minimum age to own a handgun. But on the issue of drug use, the government is appealing 4 cases to the Supreme Court, asking the justices to focus on one involving a dual citizen of the United States and Pakistan who was charged with unlawfully owning a Glock pistol because he regularly smoked marijuana. The FBI had been monitoring Ali Danal Hemani because of his alleged connection to Iran's Parliamentary Revolutionary Guard, which the government has designated a global terrorist group. According to filings, the government also alleges Hemani used and sold promethazine and antihistamine used to treat allergies and motion sickness that can boost an opioid high, and used cocaine, although he was prosecuted based on his marijuana use. This guy is a real drugstore. Hemani's attorney said the government is trying to inflame and disparage Hemani's character, and the only facts that matter are that he was not high when the FBI found a Glock 19 in his Texas home. Hemani was charged with violating the federal law that prohibits the possession of firearms by a person who is, in quotes, is an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance. Appeals court ruled past drug use not enough to stop gun ownership, and the New Orleans-based 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that the law can't be applied to Hemani under the Supreme Court's landmark 2022 decision that gun prohibitions must be grounded in history that is consistent with our tradition of gun regulation, they say. While history and tradition support some limits on presently intoxicated persons' right to carry a weapon, the appeals court said they do not support disarming a sober person based solely on past substance usage. The Justice Department said the appeals court got it wrong, and laws that existed at the time the country was founded restricted the rights of habitual drinkers even when they were sober, they argued. And in a quote, "And for about as long as legislatures have regulated drugs, they have prohibited the possession of arms by drug users and addicts, not just by persons under the influence of drugs," they wrote. A law used in hundreds of prosecutions, including Hunter Biden's, since the federal government created its background check system for firearms back in 1998. The federal restriction on drug users has stopped more gun sales than any requirement other than the ban on felons and fugitives owning weapons, according to the filing. Well, obviously, I'm not sure if that's true because there's so many guns in the streets. I'm not buying any of that bullshit, but whatever. And it's used in hundreds of prosecutions each year, they said. Hunter Biden, who was later pardoned by his father by his auto pen in his final weeks in office, was convicted in 2024 of violating the law by purchasing a gun despite having known drug addiction. And Hermani's lawyers argue that the government's interpretation of the law makes no sense when an estimated 19% of Americans have used marijuana and about 32% own a firearm. That means millions of Americans are violating that law that could put them behind bars for up to 15 years, they said in the filing. That's a fairly decent argument. The appeals court, Hermani's lawyers said, correctly applied the Supreme Court's past decisions and common sense to rule that history and tradition only supports a ban on carrying firearms while intoxicated. In addition to the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, 2 other appeals courts have issued rulings that restrict use of the federal ban. Both courts ruled there should be individualized assessments of defendants' drug use to determine if their rights could be restricted. And the Trump administration the Trump administration touts a program to restore people's gun rights because the Justice Department argues that marginal cases are better addressed on a case-by-case basis, though a federal program the Trump administration restarted that lets individuals petition to have their gun rights restored. And the administration's championship of that program makes it less surprising that the Justice Department is vigorously defending the ban on drug users having guns, said Andrew Willinger, executive director of the Duke Center for Firearms Law, a research center. And in addition, the administration has shown a broad desire to crack down on illegal drug use. And in a quote, "In some sense, when those two areas are colliding, gun rights and anti-drug policies, it looks like anti-drug policies are going to win it out," he said. Willinger said there's relatively strong chance the Supreme Court will get involved, in which the justices tend to do when a lower court strikes down or restricts the application of a federal criminal law, especially if the government asks them to intervene. But the High Court could also wait to see how other appeals courts handle similar cases and how the Justice Department's program for restoring gun rights addresses these concerns, he said. The court could announce whether it will take up the issue later this fall, you guys. Well. You know, this Trump administration, you guys need to get off of this horse and carriage. And the fact of the matter is that there's nothing in the Second Amendment of the Constitution that prohibits anyone from owning a firearm, and they just need to get off this. There is no exemption for cannabis usage and whatnot. They just need to get off their high horse on this and kind of move on to something more productive, in my opinion. And let's fight for our rights for a Second Amendment, because that's one of the things that keeps us super safe as far as from a national security perspective. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Dale?
Well, the Supreme Court has made some statements already, the Bruin and Rahimi case, where they make you go back to 1791 and take a look at how did we handle people's ownership of guns in those days. And it wasn't until the 20th century that we had anybody talking about drug addiction. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were an alcoholic or an out-of-control opium user, things like that, and the government would step in because you were, in fact, dangerous. There was the indicia that you were dangerous and you shouldn't be allowed to have guns because you're going to hurt somebody. Okay, and I don't have a problem with that. But make a blanket statement that somebody uses an illegal substance at some point now all of a sudden they're dangerous to society and can't own a weapon.
Yeah.
It defies logic because I know a lot of gun owners who are just drop dead fucking drunks. Okay. Mean drunks. Okay. No one's talking about taking their gun rights away. So it's hypocrisy. And I would hope that at some point courts would step in and say, no, maybe you got to prove something here. You can't make a blanket statement that someone who does a particular activity is per se can't be a gun owner. I don't agree with that. And historically, when you got out of prison, they gave you your guns back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, where are we going with all this stuff? It wasn't until the Black Panthers showed up with weapons that they went, oh shit, maybe we should try and do something. So they made felons you are exempt from the second, and get gun rights. And I just think it's trying to manufacture something that's not there. And it really at its base is the hypocrisy about substances.
Yep.
Our substance policies do not make scientific or logical sense. Just don't. And I don't know how you argue yourself out of this bag when what you're starting at is a nonsensical position. And so I would hope that the courts would step in and either not want to deal with this, let these decisions stand, or just say, hey, we've spoken already. Until you can bring forward historical, factual evidence of why they took away somebody's gun rights temporarily or permanently because of use of some substance, hey, get off this horse, because it's horse shit. It's very foundation.
I love that the example they used is a guy that's on the terrorist watch list selling lean and coke addict.
I totally agree with that, Jenny Beth. I was like, oh, you guys, this is.
Wait, are we talking about Hunter Biden?
Yeah, also.
No, the other guy. Funny.
Who knows? It could be Hunter Biden. You never know. You know what I mean? He may be.
Yeah, but you know what? If it was either one of them on their individual case, that's when they get charged. We don't do preemptive law in the United States like this. Like, this is crazy. We have a double standard here, and it's really. It's getting so deep. Like, when you started the story, Jason, was so deep under my skin just for off the bat. One, the veterans are going to lose their shit. And then two, again, I go back. I feel like we had this conversation a few weeks ago. I go back. I tell you what, I could walk you down stone cold with a joint in my mouth and have better accuracy and know exactly what I'm doing than probably most folks sober. But on top of that, like, what about women who have weapons for self-protection? Not even just women, men and women who have it for self-defense. That's why we have the Second Amendment. It's for self-defense, and then the right to bear arms if your government starts to act up and they start to behave in authoritarian ways. Which this is the bigger thinking for me, is like, why are we having conversations about taking away weapons on a massive scale right now? What's going on with that?
Shaun,
like, what is the motivation?
I don't think you've ever seen The Matrix. You've never heard of pre-crime, apparently.
Minority Report.
Oh yeah, Minority Report. Yeah, my bad. Sorry, Minority Report. Yeah, pre-crime.
But
I have
to that point,
grave concerns that
there should be some judgment of character. Yeah, I mean, you go in front of a judge to be judged on a case-by-case basis as an individual for your actions, right? Obviously, if you do something bad, whether you are high or sober or drunk or whatever, like that, those actions that you committed are going to have consequences directly, right? And the whole premise and lesson from cannabis reform is that prohibition doesn't work. And the feds keep going back on that. Like, well, what if we don't allow it with guns? What if we... And we've all seen, all over the United States, anywhere where, we've tried to have massive gun reform, people still end up with guns on the street. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You try to make hard drugs illegal, people still have crack and meth and whatever. If they want it, they'll get it. So prohibition just doesn't work. And when we try to layer this with something that we're trying to bring out of the shadows and legalize, it's really just trying to create more exceptions to the rule, to where if you stack all these up, eventually no one's going to be able to have cannabis. Like, oh, well, you're a gun owner, you're this, you have a CDL, you can't do this. You're an EMT, you can't smoke weed. Like, in the end, who gets to smoke weed? Almost nobody in the end legally, right?
Well,
But then when you have like that, you encourage your populace to disregard your laws entirely. Like, you start creating laws like this, they're going to disregard all of the other ones because you've made your people outlaws.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't agree.
They're not sensible. Exactly.
They're
right.
going to create lawlessness.
So here's. Oh, go ahead, Dale.
Oh, when you read the Constitution, okay, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, real simple. A 5-year-old understands. If you do that, I'm going to spank you. Okay, you can't. The government cannot do anything to infringe your rights. That's our starting point. And where we have allowed this thing to go is people have twisted themselves into pretzels to try and justify things the Constitution says the government can't do it. No fucking way can you do it. And when you say that, people get, oh, they lose their minds. Well, we have a constitutional republic here, whether you like it or not, and to make a blanket rule that you can't have a constitutional right for some reason that is not in the Constitution. I mean, people are just tired of this nonsense. The game's being played by government. Okay. And to Shaun, to your point, I've been to the VA. I got chronic pain. Guess what? In order to go to the pain clinic, I had to give them a piss test. I said, yeah, fuck you. I'm not pissing in no bottle. I did that when I was in the military, and I did it when I was on, federal supervision. But other than that, if you got a fucking warrant, fine. Okay. I ain't pissing for you because I don't trust the government. If they find out officially that you smoke weed, okay, your rights could be done. I have a lot of clients who are vets. I tell them, don't say anything. I don't trust these son of a bitches. They're trying to take your rights away. Okay. And people are they're sick and tired of it. Our Constitution reads fairly clearly. Like I said, a 5-year-old can understand it. And here we are having all these discussions about shit that the Constitution says, guess what? You don't get to do that. Now we have to have the Supreme Court step in and make a decision. And honestly, people have questions about the truth and veracity of the Supreme Court. Now, I'm hopeful. But, I look at all this stuff and go, this is way too complicated. You may not like the answer, but if you don't like what the Constitution says, you know what? You can change it. Okay. And other than that, maybe you should shut the fuck up.
Right.
How about that?
So here's the thing, Dale, is I feel, in regards with this whole story, I just feel like they're barking up the wrong tree going after cannabis. If they wanted to create some type of a law banning gun usage or gun ownership from any particular substance, I feel like they need to go after psychotropic drugs, because those are involved in every single one of these mass shootings that happens at schools and things like that. These people are on all of these psychotropic meds, and I feel like if they really wanted to do this, that they would need to start there, because there they would be able to gain some traction, because they'd have a clear case evidentiary history of all of these different events from all across the country of people being on these in particular substances and creating mass harm. And that to me would make more sense for them to, if they wanted to really go down this path. But just going down this path how they're doing, I think they're ultimately going to fail, and they're going to actually help the cannabis industry out, because I think the justices are going to see right through it and be like, this is total bullshit, and there shouldn't be any restriction on your Second Amendment right. And then it's gonna backfire, because then there'll probably be some type of ruling to where they can't remove your gun rights if you're on psychotropic drugs afterwards. And so these guys, they're just going after the wrong thing right now.
Well, that's the problem with prohibitionary laws.
Yeah.
At the very base, and I think, Shaun, you touched upon this, problem with prohibitionary laws, if you don't have almost uniform acceptance of the law and people willing to follow it, you can't enforce it. You get disparate enforcement and disrespect for the law. The average person right now looks around at all the laws and go, there's no fucking way I can honor and comply with all the laws out there. I just can't do it. So it's like, now what do I do? Yep. No matter where you go, which way you turn, you're breaking a law somewhere. I've been an attorney for a hell of a long time. I can't even keep up with all the goddamn laws they have out there.
Yep.
Can't. Nobody can.
Exactly.
So we've got too many of them. We can't enforce them. And here they're trying to make more interpretations based upon bullshit premises and laws. And people are just sick and tired of this shit right now.
I think it also speaks to like arbitrary enforcement, because when I see these big movements to criminalize massive groups, my first thing, and we can disagree on immigration all we want, but we've looked at this, we've seen how the people are being criminalized, how they're building their cases, how there's a lack of probable cause. Now, if you outlaw cannabis and gun possession, if you have either one of the two, now the probable cause, the burden of probable cause for police is so much lower. Like the threshold is so much lower to our now deal. So we've got a country that then doesn't respect the laws, and equally across all races maybe, but only certain groups will receive actual enforcement, and these will be the disenfranchised. This will be your underserved communities. This will be underserved Black and brown communities, and even, yes, white communities too. Like you're in the boat with us. You just don't know it. So I always have to bring it back to the bigger question: is why, when we're making moves to mass criminalize people, why? What's the bigger game? Where are they going? Where's the money? Like, what's the real issue? Because this is the surface. They know cannabis isn't bad for you. They know that. Now they're fucking around with you. Why? Let's dig deeper. What the hell is going on in this country that we're pushing the panic button in the way that we are?
Follow the money.
Yeah, it's power and control. And I mean, that's why this government got set up in the first place, so that the people would have something to say. And watching what's going on right now, politicians want to take the ability of the people to have something to say, okay, and keep them out of this. And then they don't even honor what the people want, because we've got documents out there we signed that have been around for 240 years and say pretty simple shit. And you're looking at the government, which is growing like an out-of-control fucking amoeba, just eating up everything it can. And when you try to stop it, oh my God, you're a horrible, terrible person. No, government only has certain powers, and it wants to go beyond that and take every fucking nickel you have, control every aspect of your life it can. And once you give the government a power, they are loath to give it up. That's where we are right now.
Exactly right.
The Constitution is pretty clear. And so why are we doing this? Well, because people have gotten away with it for a very long time and try to take those power away from the government. They shit Twinkies. They don't like it.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. I like what you said right there, shitting Twinkies. And speaking of that, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. And Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet. They make your breath stink on top of making other things stink. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with public opinions, your opinion, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right. It is your favorite Tio Loco. And you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco, and for Jenny Beth, your favorite full of shiticus.
There we go.
Full of shiticus. My story this morning comes out of MJ Biz Daily, and it's written by Chris Roberts. It said it was published yesterday, but then it says updated August 19th. I don't know what all that means. Too much for me to contemplate on a Wednesday morning. The headline is, Can Reality Television Help Save the Marijuana Industry? Now, this story focuses in on some, they self-proclaimed successful cannabis entrepreneurs that were involved in reality television. And they've apparently already cut a demo here about something like Gordon Ramsay going into a shitty restaurant or bar rescue, things like that. In reality, walk into a failing business and bring in people with experience in business and cannabis, finance, things like that, and take a look at it. And then tear down what they're doing improperly or poorly, and then bring in better business practices. And they point out some of the problems we've had in the industry, one of which is that in the black market, you can make a lot of money selling weed. Okay? And so when the government stepped in, they thought, well, we can make a lot of money selling weed too. Wrongo bongo. Because as we've all talked about here, you're in competition with the trap, the black market, and they can adjust their prices on the fly. When you're running a business, you don't get to do that. Okay? And so when the legacy industry stepped in and said, we can make all this money, and now the cops aren't going to arrest us. Yeah, but they're going to tax and regulate the shit out of you. So you can't be like the legacy market was and have 15 bud tenders holding everybody's hand, chanting Hare Krishna and telling you how great this weed is and that weed is, because it's not economically viable. Okay? And I would hope that if they do this, they can introduce some themes like, I'm pedaling as fast as I can to make this work, and the government overtaxes and overregulates, okay? And see what that looks like at a realistic basis. And oh, by the way, people aren't drinking as much alcohol or smoking more weed. Why can't we recognize that and move this more towards an alcohol model? I mean, there are some underlying themes that I think people have come up with to try and at least address this. And ultimately, when you capture the entire market, if we ever get there, and the model we have right now is just not viable because it's going to be bulk. You look at sort of an alcohol market, the average bottle of wine's, less than $10. So the average weed product will be minimally priced. There will be high, priced products, but they'll be high priced because people want to pay that price because they're superior products. We're not going to have much of what we have right now, because we take away the burdens for taxes and regulations, you can actually drop your prices and you can compete with and actually beat out the legacy black market. So I would think that this might be helpful, but I don't want to see, Cheech and Chong in there. And the shows that I've seen before, just, there to make you laugh. There's not much funny about what's happening in the industry right now. Okay? So we need to take it from comedy, which, there's places for comedy in this, to this is really serious. It's industry. And if we lose it, then the criminal element takes over. Okay. These are the realities. I would like to see this as an audience, not just for stoners, but for the general public out there to see that the government isn't trying to make this workable for us. It's just making it much harder to do. And ultimately, we're going to fail if we don't get some governmental intervention, like pull their head out of their ass and, try to make this work better. So I'm going to throw this back at you for discussion. What do you guys think about this?
I think this is kind of silly, personally. We've seen a lot of reality shows over the years, you know what I mean, and I do love some of these reality shows. I think they are great. But if you ever look at the long-term effects of when they come in and try to save a business and whatnot, a majority of them don't end up succeeding. And so, yeah, it'll be some great promotional material. I'm sure it can possibly be entertaining content. But at the same time, this isn't like some new concept. I know a few people that have tried to do similar shows like this, and they were all total flops. So I don't know why this one is going to be any different. It's not like all of a sudden, like, Michigan is this like super sexy market that everybody wants to see what's happening in. So I'm not too sure this is going to work. But we'll see. We'll see. You never know. I'm going to remain optimistic, but I'm not going to expect much from this, and I'm not going to expect a lot of people to watch it either.
I think this is done really well, but I'm not. It really depends on the network that picks it up and the producer, because if the producer is not actually an expert, they're going to produce you. And I was a documentary journalist, so I had friends in reality TV also, because you're all behind a camera. Eventually you all connect. And and I love studying reality TV and the psychology of production, because you can actually produce people to be crazy. And the producers, I'm worried about the businesses who participate, because I can guarantee you they're going to get annihilated on the front end, because those bar rescue, and this is the other thing, is how's this going to work? Like, so you go into a grow and you can't see the results or changes from that particular business, and unless that'll go over time, if it were looking at a grow, or they'll have to only do it with like retail stores. probably.
I think they only are doing it with retail stores from the like the teaser that I saw. It only included retail stores. Whether or not they do it in other aspects of the business, I'm not sure. But
they should probably try retail stores.
Oh, can you? Hold on, Shaun. I just got the craziest vision of them doing this like in a distro, and them like, hey, you know what? You sell to too many trappers, so we have to figure out a way for you to be able to divert more of this product legally, as opposed to selling it all to these different trappers that come in here. Oh my, bro, that would be the best episode ever.
What I'm saying is that they're gonna go into these places, and if you're not already squeaky clean, you should be. If you're on TV, and then if you're doing a cannabis retail rescue, they're going to embarrass you on the front end.
Yeah.
They're going to Chef Ramsay you. And I think as a consultant who's been frustrated with business owners previously, would it be fun to be the host? 100%.
Yeah.
Like you could throw a host like Jenny Beth in there, rip people up, crack jokes.
Oh, that'd be great.
That shit's hilarious. That's great TV.
Yep.
Is it good for the business? Probably not.
No,
And they're not probably going to do a lot of education. You can do it for bar and restaurant businesses because they're well established, but cannabis industry, please be careful. You're signing deals with reality TV folks. Those guys are smart and they're sharky and they know how to produce folks. Do not sign a bad deal.
Well, not only that, Shaun, I think probably the best advantage they're going to get is whatever remake and model that they do, as far as whatever type of capital expense they put into the business, which I'm willing to bet that this show probably doesn't have a large budget, so it's not like you're going to get like some master redone of a shop that you would traditionally get if you was like a restaurant or even a bar. And I think a lot of it is going to be based off of sponsorships that they have with different individual software, POS people and different types of things like that. And the industry is not that far advanced, I feel like, for this to actually be successful.
If they did something like The Real Housewives, but it wasn't Housewives, it was like Badass Women and
They've done that
cannabis.
too, and it total flop. No one watched it. It was trash.
Or something
Oh, that
like
shit was embarrassing.
It was terrible.
Like the Big B dynasty, where you are watching how a farmer farms, grows, builds, and does the whole thing. But those are both Bravo channels, and you're right, Jenny. I bet it wasn't. Tell us how it was a nightmare, because again, for reality TV, you need people to have conflict. So producers will be behind the scenes and be like, did you hear that they said XYZ?
Mm-hmm.
And then even if they didn't say it, they'll produce you and you go over there on camera acting foolish. Like, this is why it gives me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, you tell us, because I didn't see it.
The problem that happens with all the other women in cannabis shit. Like, you're in cannabis, how? Like, you just walked to the door 5 minutes ago and it was a bunch of like,
I'm gonna let Jenny say it so I don't have to.
Inappropriately dressed, attention seeking.
Oh, come on, Jenny. You can do better than that.
'Twas thought leadership.
Yeah. THOT.
Well, I'd say
Yeah, exactly.
I would want to be there on the set to advise them so that they don't self-incriminate themselves, because a whole lot of what you do in around cannabis is stepping real close, if not over lines. Some of them you're living over lines. And, that might be great for selling a program, but it's going to end your ass up in prison. So I want to be there telling them, shut the fuck up. Don't answer that question.
I was just going to say that. I mean, if you remember all those Vice specials like 10 years ago, they would like go visit some, gray market medical grow in the Bay Area. And like 6 months after that Vice special came out, those guys got raided.
Yep.
Right. I actually helped build one of those and saw it on Vice one day. I was like, I know that spot. And, so it's how many people are going to be self-incriminating, and, they're going to have to focus on interpersonal things, because that's what reality TV is about, is that drama, is like the manager and the bud tender fighting over where to put this display of vape pens or whatever. It's going to be, I think people are going to lose interest quickly, because it's not going to be about the product. And how do you make episode after episode of that? Excuse me if I'm wrong on that, but from what I recall, like, Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares and a lot of those shows, most of those restaurants failed in the long run anyway, no matter how much they tried to repair it or put the limelight on them and try to promote it through the show.
Even Bar Rescue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how many of these businesses are already doing badly, not necessarily because of their own mismanagement, but mostly due to external forces, whether it's market or regulation, overtaxation. They're already, they're already in dire straits. And so we're going to spruce up their dispensary a little bit, and that's going to turn their whole business around. I just don't believe that.
Yep.
I think people would pay to watch me go be a bitch to people.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. It would be, if I was a producer for I would want to cast someone like Jenny, because she's a firecracker, and it makes a lot of sense. But then on Chris's point, like, there's a really broadcast television and video and social content and reality TV has become your news. It is now how everyone is.
Hold on a second. High at Night News is your news, Shaun.
High at Night News is your primary news source for cannabis. But when I look at it from the lens of journalism, like when we go back to when print journalism died because of the internet, and then we look at digital transformation, and then now broadcast news is the elections, and the bullshit headlines are why people are turning to independent news sources, and they're sourcing their own content, and that includes documentary production, and it can include educational reality TV that still is a little bit spicy, because you do have to keep your viewers educated and entertained. But the industry should consider smart ways to do this. Like if they did a cookies. And I'm not affiliated with Cookies. I don't work with Cookies right now, and I have in the past, but I don't know their business. So please take this with a grain of salt. But if you took something like the graduates of Cookies U and did a year long, like, it would have to be well funded. So only people with a lot of money can do it, because we're talking about massive production, media production. You got to have a well-funded, long-form documentary style series where you can capture all the footage and tell the stories. So then you can see the behind-the-scenes story of the farmer who did everything that they could and they still lost everything. Americans need to know that. Or you tell the story of the single mom who started her own vase making, company, and we have one of those in Texas, and you tell those stories, real stories. We could do something nice, but we like to make everything cheap, easy, and pop culture. So I doubt that'll happen.
Yep.
We could, but we don't.
It's not going to happen. This is a true pipe dream in every sense of reality. So we're going to puff pass and go right on into our next commercial.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one. Every legend has a humble beginning.
All right, back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know you'll appreciate it. We'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Back, you guys. We are back, and we are going to keep this thing rolling. We are going to roll right into Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a mom, she's an educator, she's a mediator, and of course she also served our country proudly. That's right, she is a veteran. Is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
She may have ripped one right before we came back. I was coughing through that entire introduction. Thank you so much, Jason. My headline today comes from Texas, of course, because Texas is kind of on fire right now. But this is some good news. Yesterday, the Texas Ledge did pass SB 6. Didn't really debate it. By the way, SB 6 is the new SB 5 is the new SB 3. But so that same bill. The good news, however, is that we have a bill to be enacted, HB 36, which has been submitted by a Republican, Charlie Guerin, in the House, who is on the Public Health Committee, which is likely the committee that will create whatever bill comes out of the House and goes to the Senate for passage. And this bill, thank God, only relates to the prohibiting the sale, delivery, and purchase of a consumable hemp product to or by a person younger than 21 years of age. So this bill we like, guys. It's very short. It's almost, it looks like 1-2 pages. We like those kinds of bills. We like laws that are simple and clear. It's basically an age gate bill. It's introduced by a Republican, which means its likelihood to actually be scheduled is a bit higher, although we'll see. We're still going to have to wait and see what the calendars committee does. We definitely need to have a conversation about that in Texas because we have a lot of bills actually on the table for decrim or legalization or regulation. This is honestly all we need. Like, we've done a lot of footwork with THC and legalization regulation efforts, but to be quite frank, all we really need is an age gate bill, nothing else. And that's what this is kind of. It's an age gate bill, and it does have some criminal penalties for sales for minors. And you guys might have remembered when I read off some of the penalties a few weeks ago in a separate bill. This one is the same, but it does give some flexibility, lets judges determine if they want to implement a fine of $250 to $2,000. So they did hear that. They added a scale. So then judges, if you're dealing with juveniles in juvenile court, you can decide to come down to $250 instead of the full $2,000. And this is for repeat offense. And they have also substituted in some community service. So it does sound like, the suggestions that we're making are being heard, at least by the Public Health Committee. I like seeing this bill. We have to face the facts that bills introduced by the Democrats are not likely to be scheduled. This does what we need it to do, adds a simple age gate, does not change any definitions, doesn't change how we read THC, nothing about THCA, no CBG, CBD, isolates only, at like Senator Perry's bill, which makes it effectively a ban bill, because you can't achieve that. So we're happy about this one. It would take place January 1st, 2026. What does this mean for you, Texas, right now? Has it passed? No, don't get excited. I love it when people post up these headlines celebrating these wins in Texas when we're not done here. Like, this chicken's not cooked. And that's especially true for those medical operators who are really like, yay, Texas is really just expanding medical. It's not. They are doing the bare minimum. And I'm hoping as we have these conversations, so what's happening, the Texas Ledge is back in session. The House Democrats have returned. I don't know if y'all have hopefully you've been watching your headlines. It's been making national news. They have even confined House representatives in the chambers who broke quorum because they don't want them to leave before the vote. Today is largely going to be a redistricting hearing. They did have that scheduled. They did come back. They're meeting and they began the ledge, I believe, at 10 a.m. this morning. I haven't seen HB 36 scheduled yet. SB 6 already passed, so it's out of the Senate. It probably won't get scheduled in the House. We're going to see something like HB 36 or the SB 6 mirror House bill be heard first. So we have some good news. We have legislation that's reasonable. It's introduced by a Republican. It's exactly what Governor Abbott asked for: sensible regulation, just an age gate, because that's really all we need here. And the other thing would be, if we could in the future, perhaps for the 90th, if not this session, it is really essential that we earmark some of these licensing fees and the taxes that the hemp and cannabis business operators are paying, because as of right now, none of that is being reinvested into enforcement. So I don't want to hear it from Senator Perry or Chief Steve Dye, who is contaminating his own evidence by using testing procedures that increase testing for, like, we can get into that whole thing that he's raising his THC levels through his testing procedure and contaminating his evidence for all of these cases he's building, because he just got a real thing for targeting folks. I don't want to hear them next session complaining that we don't have any resources for enforcement when they won't take the damn money. Okay, they won't use the money the way it was supposed to be allocated. So we need to set that up too. But if this is the only thing that clears the legislature, it'll be a good thing and the whole industry will be happy. I'm going to toss it back to you guys. Texas is crazy lately. Tell me, what are y'all seeing from the outside?
Oh man, Texas. This should be interesting. I mean, this bill sounds semi-sensible, Shaun. Semi-sensible.
Mm-hmm.
So, you like that one, Dale?
Well, there's so much nonsense going on out there that I mean, the pissing match between Newsom and Trump and Abbott and all. It's like that's sucking up a lot of the oxygen. And we're still out here pedaling as fast as we can. Hey, can we get some attention? Can you be reasonable to us? And my fear is that it's just going to suck up all the oxygen we've been trying to get, and we're going to be left out there holding our proverbial wang and not have anything. It is concerning because this is a Texas issue, but there's similarities in all states. And so if they could share information, try to find ways that are working and build upon that, that'd be great. But that's us trying to get oxygen out of a political system that rages on fire right now. And, I've got some things here in the legislature in California, and it's just very frustrating the way the process is playing games here. But if you want to redistrict, you can get that shit done in 10 days. It's very frustrating for me, trying to work with the legislature to get something actually done. But then another issue comes up and boom.
Yep. Takes all the air out of the room.
Trying to do. You go, what? Come on, guys. Really? This is what it's all about? No. That's the problem we all face, Shaun. Politicians just make me nauseous. So I got to go smoke a joint.
Yeah, I kind of want to be like, isn't your caseload a little heavy? Sign this bill and take it off of your plate. You have other. Do you want to pay lawyers for this one, or can we stop here?
You're speaking sensible. That just doesn't play. They're deaf to sensible shit.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bureaucrats love bureaucracy, and the more bureaucracy they can paste on, the more salaries, unnecessary salaries, both public and private, that you're paying off. And it's just spread that butter just wider on the toast. That's just, and it doesn't matter if you get crumbs or a whole piece. That's just how they're looking at it right now. And, Texas could be such an amazing market if they really got their shit together. Not just population, but I know a lot of people in Texas, from Texas, that, Texans love weed. Texans love freedom, and they're getting neither right now. And it would be wonderful to see the market actually come to fruition there. And, their medical program's been a flop. They're going back and forth with hemp. They don't know how to treat it. It seems like there's a lot of backdoor money and people whispering in each other's ears. And I feel like that's why the winds keep shifting directions there on which way they want to go. And I don't think it's anywhere close to settled yet.
No, never.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Chris, because for Senator Perry to resubmit the exact same bill 3 times tells me he already said yes to someone else, and this isn't, because what legislator is going to submit the same damn ass thing over and over? That looks like I'm going to do what I did, get the points that I got last time we played this game, but I'm not pushing it further. And so then you're like, okay, I see that someone paid for something and you're captured. At the same time, fine, you can only push it as far, give them your face that I submitted the bill, and then let the rest of us play with all of our people. You know what I mean? There's not just one audience member here, and that's not the only one contributing to everyone's purse. And if you're smart, we're going to realize they won't be the future purse, guys. They're going out of style. This is why we're having the time that we're having right now. We're in a time period of great change. The roaring 20s, my friends. There's a better way.
That's right. Make America great again. That's right. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade. And in a GMP certified facility, so you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Money you're going to put in. And we are back, you guys. We are. You like that one, Dale? Yeah, it's the sad truth, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And we're gonna roll right into Mr. Christopher Vaos. He's a seasoned cannabis industry professional with over 15 years of experience in commercial cultivation. He has led large-scale indoor, greenhouse, and outdoor operations across various U.S. markets, specializing in cultivation optimization, team leadership, and cost-efficient scaling. He has a background in engineering, data-driven science, and that's right, it is none other than Mr. Christopher Vaos.
Thank you.
Yes,
and
sir.
Good morning. This next article here comes from Spectrum Local News, a New York State publication. This is about the Metric BioTrack merger that is shaking up the entire industry across the entire country. Title of the article says cannabis growers expect at least a 6-month delay for New York tracking system. Growers said Tuesday they expect New York's seed-to-sale tracking system will be delayed between 6 months and a year, probably more than that, realistically, the way things move, as regulators assess how an unexpected merger will impact its rollout. The State Office of Cannabis Management indefinitely paused the launch of its electronic seed-to-sale system that tracks the life cycle of cannabis after company BioTrack, which is contracted with the state to manage it, announced a merger with Metric. My sources are telling me anywhere between 4 to 6 months potentially for integration. This is something I'm dealing with here in Florida personally. This is something that impacts everyone everywhere. This has come up a lot in the last couple of weeks. It was kind of something those of us that have been in the cultivation operating side of things expected to happen at some point. Metric has the monopoly in most markets, and the markets that don't use Metric use BioTrack, and now they're combining. So just going on with the article here. Castetter, I believe I'm saying his name correctly, said depending on the product, between 20 to 50% of cannabis products illegally enter New York's market from other states. I've done some work in New York. It's probably more like 70.
What's the percentage they said?
20 to 50%.
Get the hell out of here, you guys. You guys obviously don't know how to do math.
Yeah, it's like 70 to 90%.
Yeah.
If maybe even more, maybe 99%. How much
exactly
like New York grown weed? You know, even the headiest guys I know in New York City are smoking like Maine weed.
Yeah, and Anna Lewis in the chat, she says more like 90. Yeah, I'm with her on that. I think it's close. I think it's close to 90. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
the article goes on to say that's why cannabis licensees desperately want the seed to sale tracking system to get off the ground. But that makes no sense because seed to sale doesn't do anything to prevent outside product from coming into a market. It really is there to prevent product from that market to be diverted out.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
People are confused about that.
And it does a real great job at that, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. We've all seen the burner distros, and you know, it's really there for two reasons. Let's be realistic about it. It's there, one, to track taxation, to tax, you know, to tax product moving through the legal system. And two, it's there to fine operators as much as possible, to find any reason that they're doing something wrong so they can impose fines on people trying to do things the right way. That's the real reason it exists. So, you know, everything else is like, oh, we're trying to protect the children. We're trying to protect, you know, people from the black market. That's all just an excuse. It's really there. And I believe metrics started years ago. It was like, when Colorado legalized, it was like founded by the nephew of the governor or something. It was all like nepotism anyway. So there's definitely way better systems. Anyone that's had to use Metric or BioTrack knows how clunky these software systems are. And you know, they could work so much better, but they don't have to. They have a monopoly.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
care.
Exactly. They don't have to be more efficient for employees because they have their contracts, they got their money, and you know, why do they need to spend money on anything when they're just going to collect money?
Yeah, exactly. What is just for a metric tag, every single plant, and I think in California it's up to like 90 cents a tag.
No, California pays for the tags. It's in your licensing fee.
Right. Yeah. Either way.
To track it though. Like they're just worried about interstate commerce, which like
it's already happening. It's already happening.
And I'm kind of like, the other reality is, and I'm all for, like, I have to look at it from the lens where I'm standing, but also for other states that have come online that, like New York, for example, I understand wanting to protect your state's market and local operators and bump them up and boost them. But when they do the seed to sale thing as their means of trying to do that, what they fail to recognize is that not every market can self-sustain. Like, and especially not when they first start, that you won't have enough product to meet consumer demand. So this is why we have to, like, yes, protect local by making it accessible, by making it feasible for small operators to actually compete, by maybe having some rules about how MSOs need to operate, building facilities in the state, hiring folks in the state. But the other thing is, like, you have to recognize that when we're standing up these markets, you got that 2-year runway where you have to have supply for your demand if you don't want it to flip to the trap. And you better have that up front, because if you don't, you're kind of fucked as a state. And local growers, trap growers, the good ones, power to you. But even still, if you were producing at the highest volume that you could, you still wouldn't be able to meet the full demand to do it right. So we got to cut this shit out.
Even the New York guys have just been eating shit for like the last, year or so. I mean, if you look at that article, there's a video on there, one of the operators saying that, nobody, even the big MSOs, have the budget to just deal with these constant changes. Just last week on this show, we were talking about the changes in regulation from, rather than being from the door, then it's the property line or whatever. It's just always some kind of a change, and it's never going to be static for them. And, they're definitely being humbled, unfortunately, but it's a nut kick for anyone in New York trying to do everything correct.
You know, even the this is the thing, is even the California face of compliant operations has even been to New York and verified that his own products were on the shelf in New York. And so that was definitely an interesting video that was posted online. But yeah, this problem is not going to persist. And you know why these people think that BioTrack or Metric even merging with one another, to me that just sounds like just more destitute failure in my opinion, and more, you know, unuser friendliness going on in the tech space with how all these operators have to operate and maintain their compliance. Is totally ridiculous.
I mean, it's them a line of bullshit when they made the laws. They sold them bullshit as a business, and now their bullshit's gotten real big.
What were you saying, Jenny?
People make it a lot more difficult than it is, right? Like if you look at like pharmaceutical drugs, those are tracked, right? You track any kind of controlled substance. There has to be some kind of reasonable tracking, right? Mm-hmm. And the point of it not bringing products in from the illicit market into the licensed market is called inversion. Yep. Looking at a couple California operators, there have been, I think I've seen 5 or 6 recalls recently. The reason why is because when you track your product, as opposed to just saying, hey, this product's appeared and we're going to put a tag on it and throw it in, you need to show parent and child tags. You need to do a full chain of custody. And that's the part, it takes some time. It takes time on the part of the regulators. It takes time on the part of the operators to make sure that you have that, but it shouldn't. If you're doing your steps correctly, that should be a very easy chain of custody to pull. Mm-hmm. The problem is when you have inversion, which means I grew this in my trap grow and I'm going to sell it in my dispensary, and that's what they're trying to protect against. So yes, diversion is when we take it out. Inversion is when we bring it in. And both things do happen. And without a track and trace system, you can't figure that out. It is a pain in the ass. Absolutely. It is my job. I do it every fucking day. But, you know, it really is not as hard as people try to make it. California is special because you guys like to kick and scream because you never had to do it before. And they're like, oh, God. I came through the Colorado market as it was first beginning. I've done this from the fucking beginning. If you keep it properly, you know, maintained, if you do the steps within the 24 hours that you're supposed to make all kinds of transitions and movements and whatever the fuck is going on, it literally records it for you. Is it something that you have to learn? Absolutely. Is it something I teach classes on? Absolutely. Call me. However, there has to be some kind of reasonable tracking. We can't just be like willy-nilly with something.
Mm-hmm. I've never seen the government get a computer system that actually worked.
Right.
That's our starting point. And if they really wanted this to work, you can work with IT companies, you know, Silicon Valley if you want, and they'll make this so that it's very easy to put information in and to track it. That's just not what we have right now. And I mean, it's like the word clunky is being kind. Okay. If you run a business out in the private world, okay, where the government's not paying attention to this and you have to track inventory because you got to make money, they're doing this a hell of a lot better than these governmental entities are because it's available. The government still sends shit by fax. Yeah. Okay, and by regular mail. And it's like, why? Mm-hmm. I mean, this could be instantaneously known. I mean, you have an inventory and boom, it goes in. You push the button, it's on its way. It's there. It's delivered. We know what's in it. The next track goes along. It's very simple to do. Computers can do this. And you want to keep human beings out of as much as possible because they could fuck up a wet dream when you come to computers, okay? But they don't want to fix it. They got contracts. I want to protect our contract, okay? Bullshit. It's unnecessarily heavy on stupid bullshit. Computers can run this a lot better than we can. I don't think they want it to work. I mean, honestly.
I don't think they would even know how it could because Dale, to your point, like this was one of my frustrations when I was enlisted is I would look at some of our civilian leadership and they would be collecting checks and you would point out inefficiencies and how we need to optimize programs. And they get paid no matter what. They get paid no matter what their performance is in the government. No matter what your performance is, you fail, you get paid. You succeed, you get paid. So your success rates are kind of low because there's really no motivation or incentive.
No accountability.
No accountability unless you got some squeaky ass wheel E5 who's on your team who's like, excuse me, sir, what did you say? But And that's a pain in the butt to be that guy. I'll tell you, that's probably where 10% of my PTSD comes from. But if they would have allowed more private contracts, or at least a bank that they can keep up with, then they don't have to do this. And the industry can pick the guys who can do it successfully instead of having one guy, one state sponsored entity.
Well, Hawaii Sustainable in the chat says all food is just tracked one step forward and one backward with simple programs and apps. Exactly, Dale. They want unnecessary jobs as regulators, etc., etc. He's totally right on that. And on that, speaking of unnecessary jobs and the trap market and all of this stuff, I have one final interesting story for you guys today. Are you guys ready for this? Oh man, because Santa Barbara County caps its cannabis acreage and responds to the grand jury, you guys. That's right. A board of supervisors discussed 2 cannabis-related items during their August 19th hearing. 2 separate cannabis-related items came before the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, as the board went forward with a proposed acreage cap on cannabis cultivation and heard the county's official response to a grand jury report issued earlier this summer on cannabis taxes and expenditures. There was little discussion before the board unanimously approved the plan to reduce the acreage cap of both the Carpinteria Agricultural Overlay District and the unincorporated areas of the county that lie outside the Carpinteria Overlay. The county has been working on reducing the acreage cap from the current total of 1,761 combined acres to a maximum of 1,551 acres, a 12% reduction that would essentially cut off any additional cannabis cultivation projects that haven't yet begun the approval process. The previous Carpinteria Agricultural Overlay District was capped at 106 acres, and there are currently 132 acres of permitted cannabis cultivation operating, with another 2 acres that have already been submitted for approval. The new district maximum for Carpinteria, effective in late September, would cap production at 134 acres. The acreage cap in the unincorporated areas of the county outside of Carpinteria District was previously set at 1,575 acres. The board approved a reduced cap of 1,417 in those areas, which allows for the 1,314 acres already in use and 103 acres that have already been approved or submitted for approval. The board approved the new acreage cap in a 4-0 vote. And in the second cannabis-related item of the hearing, the County of Santa Barbara Cannabis Program Manager Carmela Beck, no relation, but I'll tell you what, she has a phenomenal last name, presented the county's official response to the grand jury report, and in a quote says, "Cannabis taxation and expenditures," which called to attention 5 different findings regarding the county's handling of its cannabis program budget. Beck emphasized that the county was, for the most part, aligned with all of the findings included in the grand jury's report, though the county executive office did partially disagree with some of the details in the report. In a quote, "The county is aligned with the grand jury's desire to maintain the efficiency and solvency of the cannabis program," Beck said. She added that the county was committed to having a well-regulated cannabis industry and including the management of its licensing and taxation programs to achieve full cost recovery and ensure a balanced budget. The county agreed with the finding that declining revenues, mostly due to market oversupply and price collapse, were causing added stress to the cannabis program budget. And however, Beck said that the county addressed these concerns during this year's budget planning cycle, with the board making more than $1.2 million in cuts to cover the expected shortfall of revenues. And similarly, Beck said the county disagreed with the grand jury's finding that budget allocations for deferred maintenance and capital projects were not properly adjusted in response to the decline in revenue, and Beck said the county made several budget changes, including a 35% reduction in the amount of cannabis tax revenue being used to fund deferred maintenance or other projects. Many of these budget changes, she pointed out, were approved just weeks before the grand jury report was released on June 20th. And Beck also noted that the changes made during the budget planning cycle addressed the grand jury's other two findings regarding impacts on the cannabis budget, and the expenditures, she explained, could have exceeded revenues, she says, if the board did not act in June. And additional changes were approved to use the county's cannabis enforcement budget more cautiously. And finally, the county disagreed with the grand jury's finding that the tracking, reporting, and budgeting of the cannabis program needed to be more centralized. While the county currently has two separate systems for its licensing and payment, Beck said there would be a significant cost to integrating both systems in one place. And there's price collapse, you guys. Man, oh man. Look at that. They said they don't want to just streamline the whole payment process. It sounds just like this is Metric and BioTrack all together, but in a county setting. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Dale, the acreage cap.
In the Barbara County.
Jesus.
What's that, Chris?
I said there's already too much weed in Santa Barbara County.
Exactly.
I mean, so putting a cap on acreage makes sense. Of course, the people that are going to be in charge of who, the decision makers on that, we're probably not going to agree on. It's not going to be based on merit. It's not going to be based on quality. But anyone who's spent time in Carpinteria, you can pretty well agree that, we've maxed that county out as much as we could.
Exactly.
Well, this is an example of the sluggishness and inefficiency of bureaucracies. In California, we have constitutional provisions which prevent local governments from just taking in money and spending it. You got to get it approved by voters, and then you've got to state how you're going to spend it. So we have this process they call the grand jury in to make sure it's going well. But they do not have centralized control, okay? And so money's going everywhere to pay for bureaucracies which are overlapping, which is just stupid. That's the reality of what we're dealing with here. And what I've noticed, and I've been in and around government now for a very long time. Once you get people enthusiastic enough to do something, start a bureaucracy, job then is to continue the bureaucracy. For the bureaucrats to get paid, I bring in my funding. I'm a great guy. If not, I get fired. And so the bureaucracy has its own inertia, which really doesn't accomplish shit. And it's the accountability problem. When Elon Musk said, I want to know what you've done in the last week, 3 things, people, unaccountable class goes, shit, someone's going to make me explain what I'm doing. Yeah. What the fuck are you doing here? And if you can't tell us, maybe we don't need you here. Maybe you're an extra layer. And that's just I'm a Democrat. And I'm looking at this going, you guys have just got so many goddamn cash cows and whales everywhere. And we want this to be efficient. If we're going to do things for people, I want the most efficient way. And rapid follow-up. Hey, if we ain't getting this shit done, boom, let's change course. In the military, you have a plan, and afterwards you have an after-action plan. And go, okay, what worked and what did we fuck up? What can we do better? We have nothing like that in government. And it's just so frustrating because we all complain, we're overbearing government. Yeah, because they exist to just exist. They don't exist to fix problems. And it's very frustrating to watch because, they're oversaturated there in weed. But if we had interstate commerce and all this stuff, they'd be growing weed in every nook and cranny, every place they could in California, just send it across the country. But we're not there yet. So now what do you do? I just am so disgusted with the layers of bureaucracy, the inefficiencies and stuff. Watch this and go, yeah, okay. Well, these are the little pissing matches you have when what you're doing really doesn't make any difference at all. It's just perpetuating administrative state.
Yeah.
It makes you think, though, like, for me, Dale, I feel you and I agree with you, but then I have to, because I just popped off in the last segment, but then I have to reflect, this is symptomatic of I love my country and my countrymen. We have a problem in general with being a little bit lazy, because the bureaucracy isn't limited to just our government. Like they're the brightest example because they're supposed to be our leadership. They're supposed to do better. But even when we come down on the civilian level, this is like a problematic issue that we have as a nation, where I'm hoping that we can, when we did the thing about what happened after World War II or during the Great Wars, was that, and I'm not that the wars are good, but that it created this sense of work ethic that I feel some of us still have, but a good
Most
chunk
people
of the
don't.
nation
Most people
lost.
don't. Yeah.
And no one wants to be held accountable. It's just like you see it all the time. We got to reframe, because there's so much more abundance on the other side of actually having just a little bit of discipline. You don't even have to be that outstanding. If you just give just a little bit in how you show up every day, just like 10% more, it actually compounds. And it doesn't take these significant changes, but people are so set in their ways. And the other thing is that once these companies like Metric or others, I don't know if this is Metric, I'm not familiar directly with Santa Barbara, but once these other companies get their recipe for, okay, we got this market, we convinced them this was the package, this is how we go through this sales solution, this is how we do this call, this is how we line up this legislator, and then it becomes formulaic and you can repeat it state by state. And that's what we had happening in many states. We just have to get a little bit more disciplined with ourselves, and forgive me if I'm a little bit on the indica, but a little more discipline, a little, just 10% more America, because this ain't it. And it's not just our government. We got to reframe and then participate as well.
Well, most of Santa Barbara County really is not the ideal climate to grow cannabis the way they grow it. I've toured tons of greenhouses in that area. And, you got the marine layer, you got the fog. It sits there 50 degrees with a pretty high dew point, a lot of powdery mildew there. They've green lighted so many grows in Santa Barbara County, and then put the stop to so many people, in Monterey County, Santa Cruz, Mendocino, Humboldt, places that would be way better to be growing cannabis at that scale. But the reality is that most of Santa Barbara County has a lot of, Dutch-owned or large corporate-owned ornamental flower gardens, greenhouses, and it's just big money favoritism again to these producers that wanted to grow cannabis. And I'm sure once again, follow the money. That's they got in the beginning, they had the infrastructure in place, and now they're trying to close the door behind them.
Well, they also got the governor to give them sort of an exemption around the canopy limits. I mean, that was another one here. You're supposed to be limited to an acre, and it's like, whoa, well, hang on. How do you get 100 acres? Okay. Besides stacking a bunch. I mean, the bureaucracies here are not that difficult to find ways to cheat.
But in general,
it's just frustrating, because I like efficiency. I mean, I've started and run businesses, and a whole lot of my clients that I help set up in the cannabis industry, despite telling them you got to be efficient, low, margins of profit, you got to stay within those, they still do just stupid shit. The government's not helping make this efficient.
The only concern though is in my gut, I just don't like the canopy limits, because I think often legislators underestimate how much you need. And I also think it should be up to a private industry to decide. If they can buy it, they can fly it. But y'all let me know, because
it should be market driven. Yeah, it should be market regulated. It shouldn't be something that the government steps in. No one's telling Anheuser-Busch how many beers they're allowed to produce, or how much hops they can grow. Let the market decide. Let the quality tiers and the quantity tiers stratify themselves within the market, and let the consumer make the final decision on who gets to survive and who doesn't, rather than making it this closed door, public-private kind of thing with with this favoritism at the regulatory level.
It's just, we don't have the same industry, and that's where the models start falling apart, because I'm trying to get cannabis in California to be more like the alcohol industry and just let the market do it, lower the taxes, get out of the way. But the bureaucracies in the way are just almost insurmountable.
Yep.
And that is part of the problem here. In a free market environment, the Central Valley of California would have weed growing everywhere, outdoors. You'd have specialty stuff in places. They could grow a ton of weed in California and send it all over the damn world. They already do.
They already do.
The industry, legal industry, is pretending, got their blinders on. You know, it's not out there. We're not seeing this. Yeah, get your head out of your ass and catch up to the market, because the market is going. It's called the trap.
Yep, exactly.
And they're growing weed everywhere, and if you can't grow it outdoor, they grow it indoor. That's why they got so much indoor weed. And the market reacts to what the environment is, and if they took all the caps off this shit and let people do it, businesses would fail because they grew too much weed. Well, that was your corporate decision, and what are you going to do? Bury it, give it away. I don't know what the freak.
Too much bad weed, specifically.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of bad weed out there.
And you could also have those, if you took the cap off, you could also have those more genetic diversity. We need to do this. This conversation becomes heartbreaking because this is an agricultural crop that this country previously mandated you farmed because we knew it was so good for us economically, and that the farmer Texan in me is devastated about this kind of shit because I see a crop that farmers and small business mom and pop folks could actually build a true economy for the people that still feeds the state. Everyone can eat, and we could dominate global, but if we don't get our shit together, Latin America will first, and they can grow that shit.
Latin America is not going to get their shit together first. They got major turmoil, way more turmoil than we got going on over here.
Yeah, we'll probably interfere with their democracy.
But I've talked about this before. If we have global commodification, you look at what happened to tomatoes, peppers with NAFTA in the 90s and 2000s. If the U.S. were to suddenly federally legalize, how long until you have American farmers going to Mexico producing it?
Well,
at least on a labor and utility cost for pennies on the dollar, and then importing it back in legally.
You are right about that part, Chris, because when Trump was 45, as president number 45, he actually included cannabis in the new NAFTA 2.0 version. So THC is already in there, and so I do agree with you on that point. But the thing about it is that California has the appellation, everybody knows California weed, and so that is going to be the biggest selling point for cannabis cultivators here within California. The rest of the country, no one cares about your Oklahoma weed, no one cares about your Michigan grown weed, no one cares about Florida grown weed, no one cares about any of that. California is the only state that has a branded name. Maybe Oregon, possibly, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, no one is going to care about where it's grown unless it's coming from California. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
I agree with that.
I think that'll shift over time, though.
It's not going to shift over time. It's not going to shift. It hasn't shifted over 100 years, Shaun. It's not going to shift now.
I'm not saying California is missing out on the market. I fully acknowledge you guys got a great environment for it and years of expertise. What I'm saying is, I think what you're going to see, you can do that and you can do it at mass scale. But I think you're also going to see, when we expand the way that we're thinking about this, is smaller producers producing genetic diversity and cannabis that actually works in their region. And then we're going to see a whole nother level of this as a plant and a medicine.
You're such a dreamer.
I know,
such a dreamer. It's some crazy hippie shit. It's
a food, and a lot of our health is think about honey. Your local honey is better for you than your store-bought honey because it's got the pollens from your local wildlife, flowers, local farms. Buying local is good, and I am really looking forward to getting to that stage because I think that this plant has way more to offer us, and as far as genetic diversity, but we've been so consumed by the business end of this that we've lost sight of the bigger picture. We got to remove
you ideologically on that, but cannabis, just like every other plant, just like viticultural grapes or anything else, they have an ideal climate, and then they have a climate where we're forcing it, right? And because we don't have federal legalization, every state is trying to have their own program, to have their own cash cow. And because of the technology of indoor growing, you have places like Oklahoma or Vermont or New Jersey that are trying to produce cannabis,
Massachusetts,
but they're fighting the elements. But because of the historic margins we've been able to make on cannabis, they can justify it to fight nature, right? But longer term, it is going to go back to like an agricultural commodity to the places where it grows the best. And California is one of those places, right? Morocco is one of those places. You know, like when everybody was going to Thailand a couple of years ago and they were like, oh, we're going to have cookie stores in Thailand. I was like, why don't you just let the Thai people have their own fucking weed program? Like, I don't want to fly all the way to Thailand and smoke the same Gelato 33 that I do in LA. Like, let the Thai people have their own program and their own genetics, right? So I agree with that regionality that we've lost already. You know, I went to Morocco and visited a bunch of farms a couple years ago, and everybody was like, oh, you're from the U.S.? What do you know? Like, let me get some runts. Let me get some gushers. That's all they cared about because they're trying to serve a first world market. You know, so we're losing that regionality, but it's all profit driven because it's a first world consumer, and it's a consumer that's been conditioned by, you know, controlled environment, indoor growing, unfortunately, for better and for worse, right? So, but at some point, once again, the market forces are going to come in, and it's no longer going to justify from a market perspective to grow in this way, and we're going to go back to where we can grow the best and the cheapest, and that is in a climate where this plant belongs, right? Which there's only maybe half a dozen of these climates across the whole planet. So, you know, you need that kind of maritime, Mediterranean, drier climate. It's an arid crop.
The only way that your fantasy is going to happen, Shaun, is with climate change.
Well, that is happening, Jason. That is happening. But here's the deal that I think I agree with you in mass, but I am still going to stand by. I think that there are unique genetic types that do well in environments you wouldn't expect because I've seen it myself.
Dreaming.
They produce different cannabinoids. Nature survives. It knows better than we do. We know how we grow it, but I would like us to get to a place of more genetic biodiversity so that way we can see this happen naturally. The more that we're doing this mass production under lights, trying to pheno hunt in the worst ways possible without even fully understanding the plant, like nobody knew about terps and they were all chasing THC.
I don't know about that. I've always known about terps. That ain't nothing new. But in
mass, Jason, a lot of people are ignorant. Come on.
Well, of course there's a lot. That's because they're all mass holes. It's because they're all mass holes up there, Shaun.
That's what I'm saying. I want us to get to a place where we're also seeing more genetic diversity. And I do believe that it can grow in climates because you wouldn't expect. I'm not saying you can grow it in the desert from nothing, but
you can. Actually, the Kushite region of Afghanistan was where OG Kush originated from. And so they're you know what I'm saying? But again, that's one of those 12 climates that Chris previously referenced, but you know, it's a cute fantasy, Shaun. You know what I'm saying, we love your spirit and love, you know what I'm saying, all that. We just have to go back into reality, into the depths of the weeds. Yeah, exactly. That's all good. It's all good. Jenny Beth, you have anything you want to say before we close out?
Sorry, I have to work.
All right, fair enough. I do too, and you know what I'm saying. Got a lot of housekeeping I got to do today. But thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and thank you to you at home giving us a reason to do this every day. This is our last week of being 3 years old as far as High at 9 News. On Friday, 8/22, we will turn 4 years old, or 4-year anniversary, however you want to identify that. And so we do want to thank all of you that have participated, everybody that has watched the show and continues to turn in regularly, shares all this stuff with their friends and cohorts and whatnot. And so we do want to give much love to all of you guys. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.